further debate? I recognize the member for Guelph.
Thank you, Speaker. It's an honor to rise to debate Bill 33. And I think this is an especially important time to have a debate around our education system, our support systems for children and youth, and our post-secondary education, Speaker, because our public schools, colleges, and universities are facing a financial crisis that is having negative impact on students and the quality of education they deserve. And the support systems for children and youth services are, quite frankly, and I said this a couple weeks ago for Purple Shirt Day, are being held together with love and duct tape due to underfunding of the systems of support and care for our most vulnerable children. And as a result, our kids are not okay, our students are not okay, and I don't think Bill 33 is going to solve those problems. As a matter of fact, it'll likely make them worse. I especially want to thank my colleague from Kitchener Centre, who as a longtime school social worker before being elected as an MPP, was working on the front lines on many of these issues in our schools and in our communities, and has been a passionate and strong advocate on these issues. So, Speaker, I just want to quickly just start on Schedule 1 to point out, and I know the Minister of Community and Social Services has a big heart, and I've told him that many times, but it's hard to make your ministry work when, according to the Financial Accountability Officer, MCSS currently has a $1.5 billion funding shortfall just to meet their basic services. And that's going to grow to $3.1 billion over the next 3 years. And it's our most vulnerable children who are paying the price for that. And so while we can clean up some language about oversight in children and youth services, it's not going to solve the problem that there's insufficient funding to have the capacity needed to care for children, especially those in care. I want to move to Schedule 2. And again, we hear over and over that funding for schools have gone up. When population goes up, when inflation goes up, aggregate funding goes up. But per student funding actually has been going down by $1,500 per student since this government was elected. And so when that happens, it becomes incredibly challenging for school boards and school districts to meet the basic education needs of our students, especially those with special needs. So lack of ECEs, lack of special education, lack of having, manageable class sizes in our school is the real problem that our education system's facing. And I know the minister seems to want to use this bill as a way to set up the elimination sometime in the future of our school boards, but I want to remind members here that our school boards play a vital role in local democracy, hearing from parents, acting on the needs of the community, and oftentimes Queen's Park imposed solutions don't work for every community. I think the school resource officer issue contained in this bill is an example of that. Some school boards and some communities want resource officers, and it makes sense for those schools, and others don't, because it doesn't make sense for those schools, especially those with higher populations of students who may be Indigenous, people of color. And so I'm just wondering why the government wants to impose one-size-fits-all solutions and not allow our local school boards to have some local decision-making that makes sense for their communities and their schools. And so I'm concerned about what seems to be the increasing centralization of power into the minister's hands at the expense of local school boards. And Speaker, I want to close with Schedule 3, affecting post-secondary education. And I can tell as somebody who represents a community that has the University of Guelph in it, I've been meeting with so many students, did a town hall with students from the University of Guelph, and what I heard from each and every one of those students was they are deeply concerned about the loss of student fees and the important role that student fees play in enhancing the educational experience and the quality of life for students. Those fees pay for a number of things like student-run food banks. You'd be shocked at the number of university and college students experiencing hunger. They pay for things like mental health and wellness programs that support students. They pay for student clubs that enhance the educational experience and the resumes that students have when they seek jobs after graduation. They support important campus events. And so I know the government's gone after student fees in the past. They lost in the courts. And now they're taking another approach to go after student fees. And I think that's going to deteriorate the experience of students, the democratic experience of running their own governance, and quality of life on our campuses. And I also want to just briefly talk about, in the few minutes I have remaining, that our universities and colleges have done a great job of making sure that equity-deserving people have access to post-secondary education. I don't want to see that undermined by the changes in this bill. Why not leave universities and colleges to have the autonomy they need to make the decisions that make sense for them?
Thank you. Questions and comments? I recognize the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the member brought up the school resource officer, because I think that's an important part of what this bill is. But I wonder if the member, he talks about the ability of boards to make decisions. And let me be clear, I've never said that I would eliminate school boards. It's never come out of my mouth. It's not on the agenda, not going to happen. School boards will still exist. But I wonder if you would agree with me that our police forces across the province have the ability and are smart enough to know how to work with school boards in order to make this program a success in each of the boards. That by working with our police officers and with our school boards and with principals and with teachers, we can make the program a better success than it was before. And that the answer isn't always just saying no to the very same people who we ask to come in and help us when things go awry in a school. So does he agree with me that we can do this in a fashion that works better than it did back in 2017?
Response? I recognize the member for Guelph.
Thank you, Speaker. And I just want to put on the record right now today that the minister said school boards will not be eliminated. So I'm actually pleased to hear that today. Okay, so that is on the record. I'm glad we have that on the record. So I can't tell you how, I'm a regular on News Talk 1010, and I can't tell you how many political panels I've been on where conservative commentators are talking about the fact they're going to get rid of school boards. So I'm glad we have it on the record today. I'm glad we have it on the record today. Oh, the trustees. Oh, okay. So maybe the trustees did. Okay. Anyway, I just want to be clear on that. I want to be really clear on that. So on school resource officers, on school resource officers, I think the point you're making is the point I'm making. Why not allow local school boards to make these decisions and to work with our police services at a local level to have the program work the way it should in schools in a way that benefits schools, and it can be different in different schools rather than saying every school has to have the program. The bill says every school.
Thank you. Questions? I recognize the member for Thunder Bay Superior North.
Sure. We know, and you mentioned this, that $1,500 per student in public schools has been cut. So boards, teachers, everybody's really struggling to meet the needs of students, especially special needs students. We also know that the colleges are down at least $13,000 per student relative to the average in the province, and university students are also way below the national average. So my question is, when you see in this bill, we see a tax on democracy through the loss of potential loss of locally elected trustees. We see a tax on student organizations and their democratic processes. Do you see this bill as a distraction from the persistent underfunding of our public education system?
Response, the member for Guelph.
Well, I certainly see the underfunding of our public education system, K-12 and post-secondary, a huge problem that is negatively affecting our students and children in the province. No doubt about it. So let's take post-secondary for an example. We have the lowest funded college system of any province in the country. We have the second lowest funded university system of any province in the country. It would take a $2 to $3 billion a year increase in funding just to get us to the Canadian average, just to get us to the average. Those are the next great companies come out of the research, both applied and theoretical, out of our post-secondary sector. Future workers. The underinvestment in our colleges and universities is going to have real negative impacts on our economy and jobs moving forward, and the ability to have innovation and research develop great companies. Same thing at K-12. I was just meeting with the miners. They tell me it's safer to work in a mine now than in a school because the underfunding in our schools is leading to an increase in violence.